Amani woke up to a strange wave of nausea that morning. At first, she thought it was something she ate, but the feeling didn't go away. Her heart raced as she walked to the small shop down the road and bought a pregnancy test. She took it in her tiny bathroom, hands shaking, eyes fixed on the little window. 2 pink lines appeared. Positive. Her breath caught. She pressed her hand over her mouth, tears of joy filling her eyes. She imagined Malik's face when she told him, his big smile, the way he'd hold her and promise to protect them both. Malik was everything she had ever wanted, kind, hardworking, and gentle. She pictured them raising their child together, laughing in their own home, building a happy future. She didn't even think about calling first, she wanted to surprise him in person. On her way to his auto shop, she remembered Malik's twin brother, Musa. People always said they looked exactly alike, but to her, Musa's charm felt dangerous. He was handsome, yes, but too quick with his smile, too restless. Still, she never paid it much mind, Malik was the one she loved. She clutched the test in her pocket like it was a secret treasure, her heart full and light. This was going to be the best day of her life. She had no idea it would turn into the day everything she thought she knew would fall apart. Amani pushed open the gate to Malik's auto shop, her steps light and quiet. She could already imagine his face when she showed him the pregnancy test. The sound of metal tools clinking and the low hum of voices reached her ears. She walked in slowly, wanting to surprise him from behind. That's when she heard Musa's voice, low, sharp, and heavy with something that made her stop in her tracks. "Bro," Musa said, almost like he was laughing, "I've been with her more than once." "You sure the baby's even yours?" The word slammed into her chest like a punch. She stood still, her breath caught, her fingers tightening around the test in her pocket until it bent. Her mind scrambled to make sense of it. This was Musa. Reckless, careless Musa. He was lying, right? He had to be lying. She waited for Malik to laugh it off, to defend her, to say something that would make this nightmare vanish. But there was only silence. A long, heavy silence. Amani's stomach turned cold. The silence told her everything she didn't want to believe. Malik wasn't denying it. He wasn't defending her. He wasn't saying Musa was wrong. She could almost hear his breathing, slow and tense, as if he didn't know how to answer. Her legs felt rooted to the ground. Her heart pounded so hard she thought they might hear it. She slowly backed away, step by step, until she was outside again. Her hands were trembling. The test in her palm now felt like a cruel joke, mocking the happiness she had felt only minutes ago. She wanted to scream, to run inside and demand answers, but her body wouldn't move. Instead, she stood there on the street, numb, watching the shop's open doorway as the sound of their voices carried on inside, muffled and distant. Her mind was spinning, replaying Musa's words again and again. The way he said, more than once. The way Malik stayed silent. The smirks Musa had given her in the past suddenly looked different in her memory. The times Malik had been too busy to see her, the excuses, the missed calls, it all started connecting in a way that made her feel sick. She wanted to tell herself it was all some twisted joke between brothers. But deep down, something in her heart knew this was real. Something in Malik's silence told her the truth she didn't want to hear. She turned away from the shop and walked down the road without knowing where she was going. The happiness she had woken up with that morning was gone, replaced by a storm of confusion and betrayal. She could feel the tears pressing at the back of her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Not yet. She needed to think. She needed to understand exactly what had happened before she made her next move. And one thing was clear, she couldn't trust either of them anymore. Not Malik. Not Musa. Only herself. Amani walked home like a ghost, her body moving but her mind far away. Every step felt heavier as Musa's words replayed in her head, mixing with Malik's awful silence. It was like someone had cracked her heart open and poured poison inside. She tried to shake it off, to tell herself she was imagining things, but her brain wouldn't stop showing her old memories in a new, ugly light. She remembered the first time Musa gave her a ride when Malik was too busy. It was raining hard that day. Musa had shown up in Malik's car, smiling like he was doing her a big favor. He had leaned over to open the door for her, his eyes staying on her a second too long. She had thought nothing of it then. She even thanked him. Now, thinking about it made her stomach twist. Then there was the way Musa sometimes brushed past her at family gatherings, his arm or shoulder touching hers. It wasn't enough to be called out, but it was just enough to feel strange. She used to think she was imagining that too. But now, every smirk, every casual touch, felt like part of a plan she didn't see coming. And Malik, oh, Malik. She thought about how his mood would suddenly change for no reason. One moment, he would be warm and loving, and the next, cold and distant, claiming he had a lot on his mind. She remembered the cancelled dates, the unanswered calls, the times he left early saying he had work emergencies. How many of those times had he been covering for Musa? Her chest tightened, and she stopped walking for a moment. She wanted to scream, to throw the pregnancy test into the street, to march back to the shop and slap them both. But a small, sharp voice inside her told her to wait. If she went now, they would twist it. They would lie. They might even laugh at her for being emotional. No. She wouldn't give them that. She needed proof. Something they couldn't deny, something that would burn their lies to the ground. The thought gave her a strange kind of energy, a cold fire in her veins. She would not be the foolish girl they thought she was. She would be quiet. She would watch. She would collect every piece of evidence until the truth was so clear, they'd have nowhere to hide. She started listing moments in her head, dates, times, strange coincidences, like a detective building a case. Her pain was still there, raw and sharp, but now it had a direction. She would let them think she was fine. She would smile, act normal, and wait. Because one day soon, she would lay it all out in front of them. And on that day, the storm inside her would break, not with tears, but with lightning that would strike them both where it hurt the most. Amani woke up the next morning with swollen eyes but a clear mind. She had made her decision. She would not cry in front of them. She would not scream. She would not even let them know she was suspicious. Instead, she would smile, play the sweet, trusting girlfriend, and quietly gather every piece of truth she could find. If they wanted a game, she would play it, and she would win. She started with her phone. She scrolled back through old messages, reading them slowly, looking for gaps and excuses she had once accepted without question. The busy at the garage texts. The visiting a supplier calls. The nights Malik claimed he was helping a friend move. Now, side by side with her memory, they painted a different picture. She checked the days Musa had suddenly appeared in her life, offering her rides, showing up at the same events, even once waiting outside her workplace with coffee, just because. The pattern was there. She just had to connect the dots. She dug through old receipts Malik had left in her house. One was from a small hotel outside town, dated on a night he said he was stuck working late. Another was from a fancy restaurant she'd never been to, but she remembered Musa mentioning he had eaten there recently. Each clue made her blood run hotter, but she kept her face calm whenever she saw them. Her investigation went deeper. She called her clinic and asked for her appointment history, pretending she needed it for insurance records. Looking closely, she realized that on days Malik claimed he was taking his mother to the hospital, Musa had shown up at her door or called her for something small. It was too many coincidences to ignore. One evening, she sat across from her best friend Lila at a small cafe, speaking in a low voice. Lila listened without interrupting, her jaw tightening. When Amani finished, Lila leaned in and said, "Burn them both." Don't even give them a chance to explain. Make them wish they never crossed you. Amani smiled faintly, but her eyes stayed cold. No. I'm not going to burn them in a rush. I want to destroy them slowly, in a way they'll never see coming. I want them to feel safe until the day I take everything from them. From that moment, she moved like a shadow. Every word they spoke around her, she stored away. Every suspicious glance they exchanged, she remembered. She started keeping a small notebook in her purse, writing in code so no one could understand if they found it. She even began recording certain conversations on her phone when they weren't paying attention. They thought she was the same loving, gentle Amani. They thought she still saw them as her world. But inside, she was building a case so strong it would shatter their lives in one blow. She wasn't rushing, she was patient. And with each secret she uncovered, the day of reckoning came closer. When it arrived, they wouldn't just lose her. They would lose everything. Amani waited until her evidence was strong, her patience stretched but unbroken. She had all the dates, the patterns, the lies lined up like puzzle pieces. Now, it was time to end it, but she wanted the ending to be big, unforgettable, the kind that would echo in their heads for the rest of their lives. She decided to wrap her trap in something sweet, something they wouldn't suspect. She called both Malik and Musa one evening, her voice warm and cheerful. I was thinking, she said, we should all have a family night in Mombasa. Just fun, no drama. Food, games, laughter. I'll invite everyone. She even threw in a playful tone so they couldn't guess her real plan. They agreed easily. Why wouldn't they? They still thought she was blind. A week later, they all met at a cozy beachside villa she had rented. The sound of waves mixed with music, and fairy lights twinkled above the patio. She greeted them with hugs, smiling like nothing had ever happened. Malik seemed relaxed, Musa even more smug than usual. They didn't notice the tiny black cameras hidden in corners, in the potted plants, even disguised as a phone charger. Every laugh, every look, every word would be recorded. After dinner, she pulled out a small box. Let's play something fun, she said, opening it to reveal a DNA game kit she claimed she had ordered online. It looked harmless, just swabs and envelopes, meant for a light-hearted family activity to see how related we all are. She joked about finding out who had the smart genes, and who didn't. Everyone laughed, and they each swabbed their cheeks without a second thought. What they didn't know was that she had switched the game's swabs with real paternity test kits from a private lab. She carefully labeled each one, pretending it was all just part of the silly game. Her hands were steady, her smile natural, but inside, her heart was pounding, not from fear, but from the thrill of being this close to the truth. She slipped the sealed samples into her bag when no one was looking. Later that night, while everyone was still chatting and enjoying dessert, she excused herself, went to her room, and tucked the bag into her suitcase. She had already arranged for a courier to pick it up first thing in the morning. Back outside, she rejoined the group, laughing at their jokes, playing along like the perfect hostess. Musa even poured her a drink and told her she was glowing. Malik put his arm around her, whispering something about their future. She kept her face soft, hiding the fact that in her mind, their future together was already dead. When the night ended, the twins left believing they had just shared a harmless evening. But Amani knew better. The cameras had caught everything. The swabs were on their way to the lab. In a few weeks, she would have proof sharper than any knife, and she would use it where it hurt the most, in front of everyone they cared about. 2 weeks later, the day of the family brunch arrived. The restaurant was bright and warm, the kind of place filled with the smell of fresh bread and laughter. Long tables were pushed together, covered in plates of fruit, tea, and steaming dishes. Malik's family was there, Musa's too, though they were technically the same family, they took up almost half the room. Even a few close friends had been invited. Everyone thought Amani wanted to share good news about the baby. They were right, but not in the way they imagined. She arrived looking calm and elegant, wearing a soft smile. Inside, her heart was steady. She had rehearsed this moment over and over in her mind. As people greeted her, she hugged them warmly, even Malik and Musa. No one could have guessed what was about to happen. When everyone had eaten enough to relax, she stood up slowly, holding a white envelope in her hand. Conversations hushed. Malik looked at her with curiosity, Musa with his usual lazy smirk. "I have something important to share," Amani began, her voice steady and clear. "This is the DNA test from the night we played that little family game in Mombasa." She paused, letting the words settle. "I thought it would be nice for everyone to know the truth, together." She slid the paper from the envelope and read it aloud, every syllable sharp as glass. "Paternity results, baby's father, Musa. Not Malik." The room fell silent for a heartbeat, and then chaos erupted. Gasps and shouts filled the air. An ant dropped her fork with a clatter. Someone muttered, "No, no, that's not possible." Musa's face drained of color before twisting in anger. "She's lying. This is fake," he shouted, pointing at her like she was the criminal. Malik's eyes went wide, his chair scraping back so hard it nearly fell. "What did you do?" he roared at Musa, his voice shaking with rage. Their mother, seated between them, swayed in shock before collapsing to the floor. Several relatives rushed to help her, while others instinctively pulled out their phones and started filming. Musa tried to stand, sputtering excuses, but Malik shoved him back down, shouting over the noise. The two brothers began yelling at each other, their words tangled in anger and betrayal. The restaurant staff froze in the doorway, unsure whether to help or stay away. Through it all, Amani stood still, watching the scene like she was observing strangers. The chaos around her felt distant, almost quiet in her mind. She let them rage and accuse, let the whispers spread through the crowd. Every camera recording meant more proof, more eyes on the truth she had uncovered. She didn't need to defend herself. The paper in her hand had already done the work. All she did was fold it neatly, place it back in the envelope, and set it on the table for anyone to read. Then she picked up her teacup, took a slow sip, and let the storm destroy them. That night, after the chaos of the brunch, Amani went home and opened her laptop. She took out her phone and played the audio she had recorded weeks ago in the garage, Musa's voice confessing, Malik's deadly silence. She added a clear photo of the official DNA results and stitched them together into one short, sharp video. No long explanations, no tears, just the truth, raw and undeniable. With one final look, she uploaded it to social media. Within an hour, the views began to climb. By morning, it had exploded. People were tagging Malik's business page, flooding it with comments about betrayal and shame. His biggest clients pulled out of deals, saying they didn't want to be connected to a man like that. Musa's life crumbled even faster, relatives called him a disgrace, and his parents told him to leave their house. The story spread everywhere, strangers debating the scandal like it was a TV drama. Amani didn't respond to messages or calls. She stayed quiet, letting the fire burn without her lifting another finger. She had already won. Months later, in Nairobi, she unlocked the doors to her new boutique. Sunlight streamed in through the glass, bouncing off shelves lined with clothes she had designed herself. Her baby cooed softly in her arms as she looked around, proud and calm. A camera crew for a small online fashion channel was filming her for an interview. She adjusted her baby's blanket, looked straight into the lens, and smiled, cold but steady. "You both thought I was weak," she said softly, her voice like a blade, "but I was just waiting for the right day to end you."